All right. Hello, everybody. This is Stuart Jean coming back at you from Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California with Drum Magazine here. So for February 2020, we're going to look at, we have 4 limbs. We're going to analyze the role of each limb on the drum set. Let's think about each limb has a role, really. Again, if you're a lefty drummer or open-handed, just flip everything around to what works for you. I'm going to do it the way I play. Right foot on the bass drum, left foot on the hi-hat. Right hand is mostly doing all my ride pattern material, and my left hand is my backbeat. Obviously, I'm generalizing, but it's the majority of the roles. They have different roles that they play. So today we're going to look at the right hand. So we usually play like this, arms crossed. Traditional drum set is arms crossed, and that's fine if I'm playing like that, right? Okay. That's fine. And if I have to hit the backbeat harder, obviously this stick can come up. And that allows me to hit that snare drum harder. But that does mean that this is dependent on coming up. Right? Okay. And I'm fairly relaxed there. I've got space here. Whoops. I can dig in. I can tighten up if I wanted to, if I want that a different kind of sound. But you don't want to be locked into one position. You want to be able to have some flexibility. Doesn't always have to be like a perpendicular 90 degree against the hi-hat here. You could, if you wanted to maybe play with just the tip of the stick, and maybe you wanted to play quiet hi-hat notes with no accents or subtle accents, and then still hit a loud backbeat. I may have to adjust. I'm now in a different position. I'm a little more like a German grip, almost like flatten my hand out, and I'm kind of out here. You've seen guys play like this. Don't exaggerate it and play like this, right? But we can get this obstruction out of the way and just move, or we could play it like this angle, like that. And now I have more freedom here. Obviously, this mic stand's in the way, but I have more freedom, and the stick is not restricting my movement. So there's that. So when you practice, you want to practice a groove, like something easy, and play it in your normal, like we'll say American grip position. But then go ahead and experiment with pushing the elbow out, flexing the wrist a little bit, and seeing if that does something for you. That might change your playing. It might help if one area of your hand is getting stressed. Just a change of position can really help sometimes. Redirect the energy. Other way, we could hunker in like this and play, some guys have their hi-hat way over here and they're just completely crossed like that. When I was younger, I thought that was nuts, but now I realize, oh, that might work as well for me. Now I'm more like French grip because the thumb is up. You ever see J.R. Robinson play? I mean, the guy plays, I saw him play the first time like live at a clinic, and it changed the whole way I looked at. I'm like, I've been playing the drums wrong my whole life. His whole thing is, he says, if you run like this. You don't run like this. So he always plays, he's always French grip. And he's like this. He's almost like upside down, but it's so relaxed. So you want to practice grooves like this, out here like this, and then maybe over here like this. And see what works. So I think there's this area of the hi-hat from like here to here, almost a good third of the hi-hat surface we can play with. So you want to get used to this sort of pivoting, and that helping you adjust your sound and your technique on the hi-hat. And that's the role of the right hand, really. you know? So again, it doesn't have to be a fixed position. We can move around. Okay, let's move up to the ride. Obviously, we played ride cymbal. We're going to go over here. This always changes things because now we don't have any of that obstructed left hand backbeat. We're free. I hear a lot of students play a groove here, and the snare drum's like, okay, and then they move here, and the snare drum's like killing. It's like, wow. So you have to think of that when you're playing different sections. But that's left hand. Let's stick to the right hand here. The one thing I like to pass along to people on this one is something I went through when I was younger, playing like up-tempo jazz. And, you know, example would be, okay, that's pretty much how I do it nowadays. I'm not totally warmed up, but that's pretty much, you know, kind of throwing the stick down and getting those 3 notes. It's really one stroke, getting 3 for 1. Thumb up. The thing I used to do wrong was I would be thinking more like I'd be pinching pretty tight here on my fulcrum. And of course, the minute you pinch, there's tension. So, and it's because I didn't have enough technique and trying to keep up with those tempos. And it would be more like, I'm exaggerating it a bit, but a little wild, and it would start to hurt here. And once you start feeling pain, you know something's wrong. There's fatigue, then there's pain. So that wasn't happening. And what I realized was happening was, this is, I'd say, about 20 years ago. I was thinking too much like right angle movement, 90-degree movement, which is pretty much how we're taught. You know, like free strokes. As the stick is here, comes down, comes back up. Perfect. It works. And here, it's fine. But when I was throwing it, it was like da-da, da-da, da-da. You wouldn't really hear the second and third notes, and my swing pattern was not good. So what I realized was I'm getting too much throw, and I'm not supporting the stick with the back fingers enough. It wasn't like I was sticking them out like this, but I may as well have been. So I redirected to sort of more second finger fulcrum. I got a metronome out, I got a stick and a cymbal, and I played quarter notes. I just tried to stay relaxed. And I realized the stick isn't really, this movement isn't really working for me. It's parallel movement. Moving the stick this direction gives me a more even execution of those 3 notes, because the back fingers are supporting it. And I love that feeling now of, even on slow tempos, or like a pop. I just love that feeling of the stick sagging down into the fleshy part of my hand and into these back fingers. And you get a better tone. You get more wood sounding. And I'm more relaxed. So that's something you want to think about with your playing. It might help you in general. And just exercises like what I'm doing right now, like accenting the downbeats on 8th notes. And then all accented. It's a different stick movement. 2, 3, 4, 5. great term. It's probably overused, but I love it. Is you're playing through the cymbal. You're pushing the sound down out of the cymbal, not playing off of the cymbal. We play triangle like that. If you're an orchestral player, we pull the sound out, or like a timpani. But this, especially on big ballads, you want that big cymbal sound that just wash over everything. And it doesn't work if you play it sort of surfacey and like this. You want to lay into it. Okay, so you want to mess with that. Now, bell of the cymbal. We talked about it recently, but I'm going to bring it up again. The way I play it is it's like I'm playing almost a German grip, like palm down, and the tip of the stick hitting the cymbal just a few inches away from the bell. And then I'm just pivoting my wrist and throwing the shoulder of the stick into the bell. I see a lot of wacky, students first trying to do this, and they're really trying to go back to where we normally hit the cymbal, and it's too much work. You got to economize the motion. Right, that feels fine to me. Back to J.R. Robinson, though. He actually maintains his French grip and plays it like that. It's weird for me, but I get it because it maintains that thumb, that French grip, that relaxed arm motion. So it's things we can really take for granted when we're playing. It's these small things, analyzing. Take a day, take a couple hours, and just how am I playing a hi-hat? How am I playing my ride with my right hand? How is it functioning? And one last note on that is if you're reading music, and I got this from Dave Weckl in a clinic years ago, and it really made sense to me. I think we can all relate. If we're reading music, we're preoccupied with the music, and we sometimes don't realize that, in our back of our mind, subconsciously, we're thinking, why does this sound so terrible? Why do I feel awkward? And it's just because it's like driving, you switch your radio, you do something, you might drift a little bit. You're looking at music, and now suddenly your arm may have drifted to a funny part of the cymbal, way on the edge or something, and you're just in a weird position. And what David said was, you just have to look over and go, oh, I just have to readjust. And now that all goes away and I can focus again. So you want to be aware of that. Or maybe you're playing some electronics and you got other stuff going on. You want to be conscious of your physicality. So we got our hi-hat, got our ride. Of course, on the floor tom, most of the time we're going to play, again, French grip, thumb up. We're playing a floor tom ride. You don't want to be too tense. I see a lot of that, squeezing too much because you want to hit hard. Remember, you're just throwing the stick down. So that's the role of the right hand. It's our ride cymbal. It's our ride pattern guy. And next week, we will look at the left hand, its role mainly on the snare drum, and different snare drum sounds that we can produce. So thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye.